So hello there everyone and welcome back. In our first video we completed the introducing print project, and in that video we looked at how to use the print command to output a simple string to the screen. If you haven't completed that, please do go back and make sure you are comfortable using the print command. And in this video we are going to introduce the input command and combine that with a variable and the print command to create our own custom outputs. So if you are not there already, make sure you are in the inputs and outputs section of the website, and we are going to select problem 1, first input. And here we are back in the code editor and problem screen. Let's just have a look what the problem is this time. So we've got write a program that asks the user to enter their name, and then it outputs the word hello followed by the name that they entered. And we can see an example just below here. You can see that it says, please enter your name, Tim. Hello Tim. So we would expect it to look like that when we run our program. Pay special attention to the output. Your output must look exactly like this when your program is run. If we click the test button, clearly it's going to fail. This time we have 3 tests, and in this case it passes different inputs to the program and makes sure that your program will output the correct output depending on the input. So how will this work? Well, we are clearly going to have to display something to the user to prompt them to enter the input. Then we are going to have to take their input, so that is allow them to enter something, in this case their name, and then we are going to have to output the word hello and combine it or concatenate it or join it with the name that they just entered. So I'm going to write a simple program using a variable and the print command, and then let's see how you get on solving this problem once I have given you the example. So let's start off as we did before. If we can remember how to do the print command, let's go with print, and then let's say enter a color. So let's just run that, and we can see the print command displays the words enter a color. So we've output enter a color. What do we need next? Well, next we need to get the input from the user. And in order to do that, we need 2 things. We are going to need a variable to store the input in. And a variable is just a place in our program where we can store a value. We are going to make a lot of use of variables over the coming lessons. But in this case, let's call it color. This is how we declare a variable. So we've got the word color. That is going to be our variable. And in that, we are going to store the input from the user. So let's go color equals input, just like that. Okay, so this command, this input command, allows the user to enter something, and when they enter something into our program, it will be stored in the variable called color. We'll come back to that in a moment when we run a program, because it will make more sense in a moment when we just finish this off. So we are going to put another print command, and we are just going to tell them they entered a particular color. So let's go print speech marks, you entered the color. So that's the first part. We're going to put some speech marks, and then on that we are going to use the plus symbol, and that allows us to join together the variable with the string that we entered before. So you entered the color, and then we want it to display the color that you entered. So you entered the color and then color. Now that looks a little bit weird because we got the word color twice there, but this color, this word just inside these speech marks, is going to output the actual word color. And then if it's outside the speech mark, so we got this plus, it is going to output whatever is in the variable color. So let's just run that program and see what happens. We have the term enter a color, and we can see a little input box has been displayed below it. So let's enter a color. Let's go with the word blue. Obviously, we can enter anything. We could enter something silly if we wanted to, but in this case, we're just going to enter the color blue. Press enter, and then it says you entered the color blue. And you should be able to see that just up there, we've got you entered the color plus whatever they entered. I entered blue, and that is what is displayed there. Let's run the test again. Clearly, it's not going to pass because that's not what the output is that it's expecting. And just up there, we can see the expected output was please enter your name. And then it should say hello Tim, because that's the name that this test tests against. But ours says enter a color, you entered the color Tim. Looks a little bit weird, but it won't do when you fix the problem. Quick recap then. We can print using the print command. We can get inputs from the user using the command input followed by 2 brackets. To store that input in a variable, we put the variable name at the start of the line. we put equals, and then we put the word input. The input will be stored in this variable. And then if we want to join together some text, for example, you entered the color with the value in the variable, we use the plus symbol. So just before we finish and we get you on with the little project and make sure that you can solve it, just a couple of points about variables. Variable names have a couple of rules that apply to them. The first one is clearly it must really be named something that makes sense or is related to the thing that you are trying to enter. So in this case, if we want them to enter a color, it wouldn't make any sense to name this variable car, because that has nothing to do with the color. So that's why we've chosen the word color, because that's what they are entering. In addition, you cannot put any spaces in these variable names. So if we put color entered, that is going to cause an error because we can't have spaces in variable names. If we do want variable names that consist of multiple words, we can do it in a couple of different ways. My preferred method is to use something called Camel case, and you can see that there. So we've got color entered and the second word is capitalized. But in this case, we don't really need two words. A single word will suffice, and short isn't necessarily too bad. So make sure your variable names are sensible, related to the thing that is entered, and they have no spaces in it. Right. As before, over to you. It is your turn to solve this particular project. You can pause the video now if you wish, and in a moment I am going to offer you the solution for this particular problem. But have a go yourself, make sure you run the test, see if you solve it, and then I will be back in a moment with the solution. Right, okay, so here we go. Let's just start again from the beginning, because this will allow us to make sure that we have programmed the entire thing, and we're getting practice using the print command and the input command. So the first line should say please enter your name, so let's do that. Print please enter your name. Be very careful as you're doing this that you make sure that your spelling is accurate and includes capitalization or punctuation wherever it's needed. Let's use name equals input. So we're going to store whatever the user inputs, in this case it's their name, in the variable name, and then we are going to output print, and it should be hello, followed by a space, followed by whatever it was that they entered for their name. Let's just run this and double check that that is actually what happens. Please enter your name. I'm going to enter John. That's not actually my name, by the way. And then when I press enter, we will see it says hello John. Let's double check that we've passed this particular problem. Click the test button, and there you go. You can see that all three tests have passed successfully. If the user enters Tim as their name, it will say hello Tim. If they enter Greta as their name, it will output hello Greta. And if they enter Trudy Wells as their name, it will output Trudy Wells. And there you go. Congratulations, you have now completed the first problem using inputs, and you are now able to print text to the screen, take inputs from the user using variables, and concatenate variable contents with strings. Whenever you're ready, move on to the next problem, and I'll see you again shortly.